In this chapter, we are going to discuss adding new variables to our theme that can be used in our page TPL. I have been tasked with replacing the static text in our template and creating a new variable that changes whether you're logged in or not. So if you're logged in, the footer area should say, "Welcome," whatever your username is, Lullabot loves you. And if you're not logged in, it'll just say, "Lullabot loves you." So in order to begin this task, we are going to open up our template.php file and utilize the theme preprocess page function. We already have started this function from our previous chapter, so we can just go below our code for setting the site slogan and start with our first line of comments of add new variables to page TPL. Now, the important thing to remember here when adding a new variable or changing a variable is the syntax. All variables that are passed to page TPL use the same syntax of variables, and then inside brackets and single quotes is what kind of variable it is. So in this case, it's brand new, so we're going to call this footer message. So we're going to create a new variable, footer message equals. So this variable is created now, and we can prove that it's been created by using our KPR function of $variables and going to our page, and we'll see it printed. So I'm just going to refresh our main page. If we scroll up to where that KPR printout is, you'll see footer message is a string containing the Lullabot loves you. So now that we've got that, we can actually utilize that in our page.tpl file. So I'm going to go back and we'll comment out our KPR because we don't need that right now. And now we're going to open up our page TPL and we're going to find the area we want to replace. Here we go. In our footer, we've got that right there, that all your base belong to us. We're going to replace that with the footer message variable that we just created. In order to do that, we can just select all that text and then start typing our opening PHP tags. Then we can type print $footer message semicolon and our closing tags. So let's take a look if our new footer message is actually going to appear. So we'll save this, go back to our site and refresh. I'm going to scroll down and you'll see now we've got the text of Lullabot loves you. So clearly that's working. Now another requirement that we had was that the text would actually change whether you're logged in or not. We wanted to print the username at the bottom if the person was logged in. There's a couple ways conceptually to think about that. We could put that logic right here in the template. We could say, oh, if user's logged in, go ahead and grab the username and print different HTML. But that's actually not a very good practice because your TPL files are supposed to just be your markup and printing variables only. Any sort of processing, that can go ahead and happen back in your template.php file. So we're going to switch gears back to that file, and we're going to utilize the same area that we just created the variable, and we're going to actually start writing our if statements right there. So if the user is logged in, and that is a variable that's available to us, and we saw in our KPR called logged in. So if the user is logged in, we want to create that variable. And if they're not logged in, we want to do another variable. Now let's add that in as well, our else statement. And I'm just going to copy that line right in for us. Okay, so we're almost there. We've got the distinction between the two. Let's start with writing so we know that the difference is working is logged in. Okay, we'll go back and we'll check. Make sure that actually is working. Yep, when changed, our footer message now says logged in. So now we also can do the same for the else statement. We can change this one to logged out and go test that. Make sure that variable is being set correctly. So we'll go back to our site. We will log out, scroll down, and in our footer it says logged out. So we can now log in. And one more time, confirm. In our footer it says logged in. So our code is totally working. Now we need to actually have it display the correct message. If you recall, if the user was not logged in, we wanted Lullabot loves you. But if the user is logged in, we wanted to actually welcome them by name. So we can say welcome, and we'll just put in username for now. Lullabot loves you. Now the thing that we need to dynamically replace is username. The T function, as we mentioned, does allow strings to be translatable, but it also allows you to go ahead and to pass in variables to be replaced. So what we need to do is transform username into a replaceable variable. To do so, we're going to add the @ symbol. And then within the T function, but outside of our first string, we're going to put a comma and then add in an array of values to replace. So you can see now that we have an array where @username matches up to the variables user and name. So that's how you utilize the T function to go ahead and take another variable and pass it in. So that way, when Joe is logged in, it'll say welcome Joe. When the administrator is logged in, it'll say welcome admin. So let's go ahead and test that. We'll go back to our site, and I'm going to hit refresh and scroll down, and you see now it says welcome admin. So our code totally worked. There are a couple things to note for utilizing the T function is there are 3 different syntaxes for the replacements. One beginning with the @ sign like we used. You also have the choice of the exclamation point and the parentheses. Now those sound like some weird syntaxes. So to find out more, let's go take a look at Drupal's API page on the T function. If we scroll down to the parameters section, it shows us the 3 different kinds of syntaxes we can use. The @ sign that we used is escaped to HTML. So this is anything that needs to be potentially washed before it is displayed. We also can have the %sign, which is great for user-submitted content, and then only in special circumstances would we use the exclamation point because that's not sanitized at all. The reason why there are 3 different kinds of variables you can use is that you really do not want to print anything to the screen that is a user-submitted content that has not been sanitized or washed. So that's why these variables are here to take care with that so you can wash the content. We'll go into more detail in later chapters about sanitizing your content. So just to recap what we did, we added a new section to our theme preprocess page function that created a new variable. And we also did a little bit of conditionals here to check, is the user logged in? If they are, have the variable output a sentence that is actually in context with the fact that they are logged in and displays their username. And if they're not logged in, just do a plain static sentence. We took that and made sure the format was variables, $variables, and then in brackets, the name of our variable. Once we had that created, we could go into our page TPL and print what the name of the variable is. So once all variables get passed into your page TPL, you no longer need the beginning part. You just need the name of the variable. This is just a string that we created. It is not being rendered in any way. We're just printing it out. So we use the syntax of opening PHP tag, print $footer message, and then the closing PHP tag. If we go back to our site, we can see our handiwork. Again, in our footer, it says, "Welcome, admin. Lullabot loves you." And just to confirm that our logic is working, we can go ahead and log out as well. And scroll down, and indeed, we have a different footer message.